Welcome back to the FTTM podcast, your guide to getting the right product to the market at the right time. This week, we are going to focus on FTTM planning, how to execute to achieve right time.
And this is a really provocative topic because we're essentially putting two very different philosophies in the ring today. You've got traditional project management in one corner. I mean, it's the heavyweight champion of the corporate world, right? Gantt charts, status reports, all that stuff. And in the other corner, we have this methodology from the Lateral Works research, fast time to market, or FTTM.
Right. And the core question we're really grappling with isn't just, which one is better. It's more specific for anyone listening who works at advanced research. Is all that bureaucracy from traditional project management a necessary safety net, or is it actually an anchor? I mean, is it the very thing holding teams back when the goal is real innovation?
Anchor's a bit of a loaded term, but okay, I'll go with it. We're looking at this Lateral Works research, which covers, 25 years of best practices? And what really struck me is how black and white the argument is. The text basically suggests that for bleeding edge projects, things with high uncertainty, traditional management isn't just a little inefficient, it's functionally obsolete.
It is obsolete. And I'll take the position today that if you're in one of those high innovation environments, if you're building something that has never been built before, traditional project management is a liability, full stop. If you want speed, you have to abandon the hierarchy and the standard controls. The Lateral Works research is crystal clear on this. The very mechanisms that are designed to minimize risk in, say, manufacturing are the exact same things that kill speed in R&D.
And I'll take the skeptic's view, because I'm just not convinced that abandoning control is a strategy. It sounds a lot more like a surrender to chaos. The research uses phrases like failing fast and adopting a warm mentality. And look, that makes for a great soundbite, but I worry about the stability of the project. Traditional structures, they exist for a reason. They provide a framework that, prevents chaos, ensures compliance, manages the money. You can't just throw out the rule book and hope for the best.
Well, let's get right into the definition then, because this is exactly where the two paths diverge. The Lateral Works research makes a really bold claim right up front. FTTM is not project management. It's not a version of Agile. It's not a branch of Waterfall. It is a different species entirely.
It's very emphatic about that, yeah.
It distinguishes them by role. So in the traditional world, you have project managers. In FTM, you do not. You have system integrators. Now, before you say that's just semantics, changing the title on the door, you have to look at the function. The research argues that traditional PM thinking is focused on one thing, control. FTM thinking is focused on speed.
Okay, I see that distinction in the text. But let's pause for a second on this concept of control. The material seems to frame control as this inherently negative thing. But in a high-stakes environment, we could be dealing with millions of dollars in R&D or critical dependencies. Control is usually seen as a positive. You need to know where the money is going. You need to verify that milestones are actually met. If you just remove the manager, who ensures there's an audit trail? Who makes sure the pieces actually fit together?
But you have to ask yourself, is that control real, or is it an illusion that you're generating with paperwork? The Lateral Works research defines FTTM as a system where engineers and scientists manage themselves to get the right products built. The goal isn't to be managed, the goal is to get rid of system inefficiencies. When you swap a project manager for a system integrator, you're not putting someone there to ask for a status report. You're putting someone there to facilitate the connections between the experts so they can solve the problems.
I get the intent, I do, but I want to push on the reality of that. Is the distinction between a project manager and a system integrator really all that substantive? If a system integrator is still, at the end of the day, responsible for the timeline, aren't they just a project manager with a cooler title?
No, absolutely not, because the mechanism of how they interact is inverted. A traditional project manager operates by interrupting the team. They pull data, status, percent complete, all that to feed up the chain. They are a tax on the team's time. A system integrator, on the other hand, provisions the team. The research is explicit. It says FTM provisions teams versus interrupting them. The system integrator's job is to look ahead, see a roadblock coming, lack of equipment, a decision bottleneck, and clear it before the team even gets there. Their output is velocity, not a report.
So one extracts value to report on it, and the other adds a value to accelerate it. I will concede that the interruption part is a huge point of friction in traditional models. Nothing kills your flow like a Tuesday morning status meeting where you spend an hour explaining why you're not done yet. However, the material also says FTM needs a war mentality versus peacetime processes. And that's where I get nervous. Abandoning those peacetime processes, which are designed for sustainability, it feels risky. If you are constantly at war, you just burn out the very scientists you're trying to empower.
Let's dig into that, because process is where the real friction is. One of the strongest points in the Lateral Works research is it says FTM dislikes hierarchy and nonsense reporting of half-truths.
Nonsense reporting of half-truths. I mean, wow, that is a very aggressive way to describe a standard corporate update.
But is it wrong? I mean, really think about the mechanics. You have a weekly status meeting. The engineers, they spend 2 hours prepping slides to explain incredibly complex physics to a manager who might not get the nuance, so they simplify it, they polish it, they hide the ugly parts because no one wants to get yelled at. By the time that deck reaches the VP, it is a half-truth. It's masking the real risks. The dashboard is green, but the project is just rotting from the inside.
I think lying is a bit strong, but filtering definitely happens. Everyone wants to present their best face to leadership. But reporting isn't just about polishing, it's also about alignment. If you get rid of the host interrupts, as the research calls them, and that whole structure, how does the team stay aligned? How does the left hand know what the right hand is doing?
The alignment comes from the work itself, not the report about the work. The research says FTTM uncovers truth, realistically plans learning cycles. The truth isn't in a PowerPoint deck. The truth is in the simulation. It's in the prototype. FTTM hates delay. It forces decisions by putting raw data in front of the team, not by filtering it up a hierarchy. The system integrator makes sure the left hand talks to the right hand by literally putting them in the same room to solve a problem, not by reading their status reports to each other.
So you're arguing the truth is uncovered through the actual activity of the team, the physics, the code, rather than the administrative oversight.
Exactly. The report creates a lag. The work is happening in real time. In FTTM, you don't spend energy reporting on the gap. You spend energy closing it.
Uncomfortable concept in the research. The text uses this phrase, pulling pain forward.
Yes, this is absolutely crucial. It's the antidote to that green dashboard illusion.
It sounds masochistic. Pulling pain forward. It implies you are intentionally creating stress early in the project. I mean, why would anyone sign up for that?
You're inducing reality early. The research says FTTM is designed to model the real schedule and know the gap early. We've all seen the watermelon project, right? Green on the outside, red on the inside. Everything looks fine until 2 weeks before launch, and then, whoops, the schedule slips 6 months. That happens because the pain was pushed back. The hard problems were deferred. FTTM forces the team to stare at the gap, the difference between where they are and where they need to be right away, on day one.
I can see the logic there, sure. It prevents the death march at the end. But what about the execution? The source mentions using simulation and modeling tools. Is FTTM relying on some kind of special software for this?
FTTM is the simulation tool. The methodology itself acts as a modeling tool. It uses what it calls group simulation studies to close that gap. So instead of a manager looking at a Gantt chart and saying, you need to work harder, the whole team gets together, looks at the gap, and uses their collective intelligence to figure out how to close it. They simulate the workflow. They ask, okay, if we do X, then Y happens, but Z will fail. So how do we fix Z? They're running the project on the whiteboard before they even commit the resources.
That touches on the participatory problem solving that's mentioned. The research claims this creates focus and positive energy because the solution isn't being top-down imposed.
Precisely. If I tell you to work the weekend because my schedule says so, you're going to be resentful. If you and your peers look at the simulation and you realize, hey, if we don't solve this physics problem by Tuesday, the entire integration fails, you're motivated. You own it. The locus of control shifts from the manager to the creator.
It turns the schedule from this constraint into a puzzle the team actually wants to solve.
I see the psychological benefit. It treats engineers like adults, not just resources on a spreadsheet. But there's a risk. Top-down management, for all its flaws, it does provide a singular direction. This participatory problem-solving, that can easily lead to analysis paralysis or design by committee. If everyone is solving the problem, is anyone actually making the final call?
That's where the system integrator comes back in. They aren't a dictator, but they facilitate that focus. They make sure the participatory part ends in a decision, not just an endless debate. They're the catalyst.
Okay, let's circle back to control for a minute, because the research has this very specific equation I found fascinating. It says, too much control equals slow, too little control equals slow.
Right. It's a bell curve.
Exactly. It admits that anarchy is slow. If you have zero control, people wander off, resources get wasted, nothing integrates. But obviously, heavy bureaucracy is also slow. So the research positions FTTM as the low overhead sweet spot.
The Goldilocks zone, it's not about having no management. It's about having the minimum viable management you need to maintain speed. It's about stripping away every single thing that doesn't directly contribute to the product. Every meeting, every approval form has to justify its existence against one metric: speed.
My concern is that finding that sweet spot is just incredibly difficult. It's easy to write sweet spot on a slide. It's a lot harder to live it. The text suggests that shifting to a system integrator solves this, but I worry that without those rigid structures of traditional PM, teams will just naturally drift toward too little control, and things will get messy. Who enforces the sweet spot?
It only gets messy if you don't have the right mindset. And this brings us to, I think, the most controversial part of the Lateral Works research, the war mentality.
It's war, not peacetime. That's the quote.
That's the one. The research says, known rules don't apply, nothing is normal in this hyper-fast environment.
That sounds like a recipe for burnout and, honestly, disorder. Nothing is normal, known rules don't apply. If I'm a stakeholder or a regulatory body, that phrase makes me extremely nervous. It implies that standard operating procedures are optional?
And it should make you nervous if what you want is a guaranteed, safe, slow result for a commodity product. But the research frames this in the context of tasks that are, and I'm quoting, frankly impossible in time. We're talking about bleeding-edge science. If the timeline is impossible using standard methods, you have to apply non-traditional thinking, you have to check your ego at the door, you have to accept that the standard peacetime cadence of 9 to 5 predictable work just won't crack the physics in time.
Willing to lose in order to win. That sounds a lot like gambling.
It's the fail-fast philosophy. The research is explicit. Ship what you have now. Don't wait to make it perfect. Improve it over time.
Perfect is the enemy of the good.
Exactly that. The traditional mindset is wait, think. You analyze until you're absolutely sure. FFTM says default to action. Be roughly right now rather than precisely wrong later.
I really struggle with this one, especially in technical fields. If you ship what you have now in software, okay, maybe you have a bug you can patch. If you do that in hardware or aerospace or pharmaceuticals, shipping what you have now can be catastrophic. Does the research account for the danger of being roughly right with a $100 million satellite?
That's a common misunderstanding. The research is talking about rapid iteration cycles during development. It acknowledges that the first one will always be wrong. The goal isn't to ship a dangerous product to a customer, it's to ship the prototype to your own test lab immediately so you can learn from it. You get to the future correct iteration sooner. If you wait until the design is perfect on paper, you've learned nothing about the physical reality. You're just debating theory. FTTM wants you to debate real data.
So it's about accelerating the learning curve, not rushing the final deliverable out the door before it's actually ready.
Right. You get the bad versions out of the way fast so you can get to the good version. You are literally buying information with speed. The war mentality is about attacking the unknowns, not attacking safety protocols.
Okay, that's a crucial distinction. But to even execute this, to have this war mentality, you need a very specific type of organization. The Lateral Quarks research calls for a
flat organization.
This is my favorite part. Abandon traditional org hierarchy.
It proposes only 2 levels, leader and doer.
Just 2. No middle management. No VPs of VPs. Just the people doing the work and the person guiding the mission.
Is that scalable? Can you really run a 500-person division with only leaders and doers?
You have to if you want speed. The research argues this structure creates a high level of freedom to act. It stops the team from getting distracted by organizational inertia, turf battles, and greed. I mean, how much time is wasted in big companies just fighting over budget codes or who gets credit?
A significant amount, no question. But turf battles and greed, that's human nature, not just an organizational artifact. If you remove the hierarchy, do you really remove the politics? Or do you just make the politics more chaotic?
You minimize it, because the focus is solely on the mission. Total focus on the mission. When everyone is a doer, there's less room for people whose entire job is just to manage territory. The hierarchy creates the turf. You take that away, you take away the battle.
But there is still a leader. The research makes a point of saying one experienced voice at the top who maintains the mission focus.
Yes, it's not anarchy. There is a leader, but that leader's job isn't to micromanage. It's to encourage the team to admit you don't know it all and to seek help.
That one experienced voice is carrying a very heavy burden, though. In a traditional hierarchy, the decision-making load is distributed. In this flat model, that single leader could become a massive bottleneck if they aren't careful. They have to be incredibly disciplined about letting the doers actually do.
Which goes right back to the system integrator concept. The leader sets the roughly right direction, the North Star, and then lets the collective intelligence of the team solve the gap. They don't dictate the solution, they dictate the urgency. Their job is to protect the team from the outside world so the team can focus on the war.
It's a high-risk, high-reward approach. I can see why the research positions it for bleeding-edge science. If you're building a bridge, something that's been done 1,000 times, stick to traditional PM. It's safe, it's predictable. You don't need a war mentality for that.
Exactly. If the solution is known, use a Gantt chart. If you are inventing a new energy source or a new drug, use FTTM. Traditional PM is designed to minimize variance. Innovation is variance. You can't minimize variance and expect to discover something new.
I think that's a fair summary of the tension. We have 2 different worldviews. Traditional PM offers the comfort of peacetime rules, reports, control. It feels safe because it generates this paper trail of diligence.
But it just delivers overhead. It slows you down. It puts the process ahead of the product.
And FTTM offers a war strategy. It accepts that the task is impossible by normal standards, and so it throws out the rulebook. It embraces the stress of pulling pain forward to buy time for solutions. But it requires a team mature enough to handle that freedom without it all falling apart.
It empowers the engineers to be system integrators, not just cogs in a machine. It treats them like adults who want to solve the problem, not employees who need to be monitored.
I still have my reservations about fail fast in these complex environments. And I think the war metaphor can be dangerous if you keep it up for too long. People eventually need peace. But I can't deny that for the specific goal of right product, right time in an advanced research setting, the bureaucracy of traditional PM seems like a luxury you just can't afford.
It's a luxury that kills innovation. To achieve the right time, you have to strip away the half-truths of reporting and face the raw data, the gap, head-on. You have to trade the illusion of control for the reality of speed.
It's a compelling argument for those willing to embrace a little bit of the chaos.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to tune in next week where we will dive deeper into key practices of FTTM teams.